We are what we repeatedly do, therefore excellence is not an act, but a habit. But that does not mean repetition in anything is always good. In fact, repeating the wrong actions, such as smoking, can have bad consequences. The same applies to programming. Repetition in the sense of coding every day is fantastic and builds a great habit, but repetition in your code is something you should generally avoid. Can you see this? Not only does it look bad, but it's not clear what the end result would be without counting each line. Considering it could be thousands of lines, it would also take a long time to write. But most importantly, this approach cannot be used for an unknown input. You cannot predict the future in order to write the exact amount of code lines for it. This is where loops come into play. They are a flow control structure that allows you to run code repeatedly for known or unknown number of times. Replacing repetition with a loop is similar to replacing addition with multiplication in math, and loops come in different shapes and forms. This is the famous for loop. It usually consists of three parts. Initialization, to initialize the iterator variable. Condition, evaluates the same variable against the condition. Here the loop decides when it needs to stop. And finally, statement. The variable is usually incremented to keep track of how many iterations have passed. Another one is while. The name is self-explanatory. While a certain condition is met, execute this line of code. There are many other loop constructs in different programming languages, but even though different loops are generally interchangeable and can achieve the same purpose, it makes more sense to pick one over the other in different situations. For example, to iterate over a dataset from start to finish, you would generally use a for loop. And when you have a more complex condition, it would make more sense to use a while loop. And last but not least, no matter which loop you choose, it's important to pick a valid condition, because if you don't, you could end up with an infinite loop.